Okay, please tell us your name.
I'm Susie Shepard.
And where and when did you serve as a VISTA?
I served in Chickasha, Oklahoma, which is about 45 miles west of southwest of Oklahoma City, from the end of February 1973 until early June of 1974.
Okay.
Oh, and I have to tell you guys, VISTA was the single most fantastic experience of my life. It is the way to serve your country if you aren't going to do it in uniform. If you can do it both, that's great too. I was sent there. I just graduated from college. I was doing substitute teaching when I was called into my service. I had signed up a couple of years before that when I was still studying to be a teacher. And I was sent to Oklahoma to set up a youth project serving 2 counties with 4 community centers and several school districts. And while I was in the process of doing that, one of the other VISTAs, whose service time was coming to a close, gave me a challenge. We lived in Chickasha, which at the time was a town of about 15,000, and we served the whole town, of course, as well as other towns. But Chickasha at the time was totally racially divided. Blacks on one side, whites on the other, no in between. I heard that there was one Hispanic family who lived way on the outskirts of town. I never got to meet them in the time that I was there. My first real awakening of the gravity of why we were there came when one of my young fellows from the Black Community Service Center where I was serving came to visit my apartment. I wanted him to come and meet my cats, and I can't remember his name. His brother's name was Ricky, but he came by himself that time. And the woman who owned the apartments that I was living in was kind of a crabby old woman anyhow. I'd met her a few times. Her son was really nice. But she was a white woman, and my friend and I were just going into my apartment, and she came up to him and she said, "Boy," I had never heard that, and I get goosebumps 45 years later thinking about that experience. And I looked at her and I said, "Excuse me, Mrs. So-and-so, this young man has a name," and it's whatever it was, which obviously I can't remember right now. And she looked at him and she said what she said again. And I repeated myself and I said, "Come on, honey, let's go get some ice cream or something." And I just put my arm around him and we left. And I thought, okay, this really is what we're up against. This happened in my first couple of weeks there. And I was so angry, and I knew that I really had to keep my temper under control. But I thought, okay, this is really it. This is the real McCoy, and this is why we're here. So my friend Georgiana, as she was getting ready to leave her service, she said, "Susie, we'd gotten to know each other over about 6 or 8 weeks." And she said, "You know what this town needs?" And I said, "What?" She said, "It needs everybody to come together, the blacks, the whites, and have just a big fun night or something. And I think you are the person to put it together." And I thought that sounded really huge. And of course, you're passing that idea off to me as you're getting ready to leave here, but let's go talk to the supervisor about it. So we talked to Katie Phelps, our wonderful supervisor, and Katie thought about it in about a split second and said, "You can do that if it won't compromise your time with the tutoring program, because that's why you're here and that's what you need to do." I said, "I can do it. I'm young, I'm strong, I'm healthy." We had Paul Keller on our VISTA service. He's from Sandy, Oregon, and he is a newspaper reporter and publicist and all. So I talked to Paul and I said, "We got to put this thing together and we got to get everybody involved." Well, I started cold calling everybody. There was no public transportation there. We got all the churches involved, and everybody got their church buses out. And in the summer of 1973, Chickasha, Oklahoma had an AllCity Fun Night that was really a blast. We had a watermelon seed spitting contest, square dancing, a talent show. To this day, I cannot see or hear the Monster Mash come on the radio during Halloween and not see the little girl who was up there with her Dracula thing having the time of her life up there. It was just a blast. Everybody came from both sides of the community. Everyone agreed it was a marvelous time, long overdue. Paul gave us a huge write-up in the National Vista paper, which of course Katie thought was great, and it was a really, really wonderful thing. I cannot encourage people enough to get involved in VISTA. Don't go AWOL from your project. Some of us did that one weekend to go on a canoe trip, and it turned into a disaster. We lost one of the boats. I ended up in the hospital for a week, and it was crazy. And trying to explain that to Katie, she was so kind. She could have kicked us all out at the time. I'm so glad she didn't, because getting to stay there. I mean, we got chased by a tornado. I would never have that story to tell if I had gotten kicked out. So I'm so glad that we got to do what we did. Our tutoring project went well. There was one other thing I was going to say, if I can remember what it was. I don't know. All I know is VISTA should be the time of your life. Give all you can give and go to do your assignment, but keeping completely open to something else that may come, because the skills that I got from putting together that event have served me well into my adulthood and continue to this day as I organize fundraising events for all kinds of charities. So God bless you, serve your country, and be proud to be a VISTA. Thank you.